Hi JJ and team. Thanks very much for inviting 39 Steps to provide you with our proposal to approach your brand refresh project. Here I've got a few slides I want to talk you through, and it accompanies the deck that's been emailed to you as well. So what I'm covering off here are these elements. First of all is your objective. Which this is taken straight from your brief. And our approach is in two parts. So we want to give you useful outputs across all the 4 elements that you have. The challenge is that your budget at the moment is pretty restrictive. So in order to make sure that you're getting valuable, useful outputs across all 4, we've identified and prioritised things that we deem to be essential at this point in time from our understanding of you. I've just noted that here, and there's a couple of assumptions and things as well. So what I want to say though is it's very flexible. If we're appointed, then we would love to talk to you a bit more about what your priorities definitely are across those to make sure that we're maximising the budget that you do have. These are the key deliverables we understand you need. Brand visual system, cross-channel assets, messaging and character style. We've just used the headings straight from your brief for clarity. I'm going to talk through each of these in turn, what we deem to be essential and how we would approach it. So we want to take into accessibility, and these are the essential parts that we would do amongst that. So look at the colour palette refinement, making sure that it's high contrast, and the typography system that works against things like images and the fonts are very legible. We'd also create the brand guidelines, a simple version of those, so that it's very easy for the in-house team to follow. The extended version would include things like the additional tone of voice and examples and things like that. But in terms of budget, what you would need right now, we believe that these first 3 bullets will suffice. The cross-channel assets. Okay, so we recommend that you have a Canva account. You've mentioned before that you've got certain assets on Adobe. Canva is definitely the place to have this. It's very effective, efficient, and it allows you to have a brand kit on there with all the assets so that your team can confidently and consistently create those assets time and time again. So we recommend it's a team account that you have, and not the free one or just the pro, because it'll allow several different people within Canva to be able to create those things. Here's your essentials. We believe you're going to be needing a design concept for the presentation documents that you have, some examples across different merch, and practical examples of how the email signature, social banners and avatars will work. And then obviously the supply for all the relevant files, both for print and for web. Now, the Evolve brand guidelines will enable the web team to make changes and things to the website. We can't be looking at the website at this point, homepage and such like. The budget just simply won't allow for that across the different elements that you've got. So we do think that these would be your quick wins for the moment, and the guidelines will allow the web team to be able to make those changes. Okay, so phase 2 would be any additional web visuals and things like that. Messaging. So this is an interesting one because it's really dependent on what your strategy and existing tone of voice has. I've noted here that it could be that the messaging could just be a minor tweak, or it could be that visually that's all that's actually going to be needed in order to get across that gravitas and that expertise that you're after. Without having sight of the strategy document itself, it's a bit tricky for us to kind of make that call at this point. But what we think might be useful right now would be the essentials on 2 to 3 examples of reworked headings and subheadings as asked for. And then phase 2 would be looking at editing the existing copy with an updated tone and language, and also taking into account the accessibility bit as well. With insight with your strategy document and where the positioning is, we'll have a better idea around what messaging we would be able to help you with. Any messaging would also be reflected in the updated tone of voice guide. Character style. So this is an area we're reckoning best done in phases, because this is essentially like a big library of material, and it could be added to as and when. So we've broken it down into the essentials and the nice to have. So the essentials we feel are obviously having that kind of just the generic style approved for a cat and a dog icon, and then applying that to say the 3 to 4 poses that you've mentioned in the brief there: sitting, playing, walking, and lying down, and then picking like 3 to 4 accessories per character, and that would allow you to create a feeling, and start to create all those different collateral items. We would be putting those up onto your Canva brand kit as well. But then how long is a piece of string, essentially? So the other elements that you talked about were kind of animation of those, and the different recognizable breeds, the interacting owners, and like the more additional accessories. So there's more and more could be added to it, but I think essentially, first and foremost, we need to create that style for a generic cat and a generic dog, and then those very, very initial poses that will allow you to have that variety. In terms of accessibility, we would be looking to do these following bits and pieces. We've got essentials here. The project scope will allow us to look at the imagery and text and the design, and creating that high contrast colour palette, and making sure that the typography choices are clear with sizes. We would be looking at the straightforward languaging for messaging as well. And also then provide your team with a handy toolkit checklist in order to make sure that anything that they're creating is adhering to those guidelines. The tools we use are kind of industry standard to make sure that we're reaching those guidelines. But as a phase 2, I do recommend that we look at a full version of an accessibility strategy that translates across all digital media, video, multimedia, various formats, and all kinds of things like that too. Here is our investment summary. Looking at the different elements that you have here, we've put in a bit of an estimate against all of these. It comes to it's about just under 9, and accommodates the different aspects that we've mentioned here in the essentials. This is the timeline that we'll be looking to do. So again, I've just made sure that we're using the same headings for clarity. Obviously, it's quite a tight time frame that we're looking to work with you in, but it's broad here with the weeks commencing. So across these weeks, we would be putting in timelines with you. We would be looking to project manage this in a way of having a very regular check-in with the key people on your side, to make sure that the project keeps up momentum and that everything's happening very smoothly. And then, but we feel comfortable that by the beginning of June, you'll be ready to go. Here's a couple of assumptions that we've got, that you'd be able to provide us with an existing tone of voice guide, that we would also have the approved strategy doc in order to make sure that our messaging is on point, and also that your team doesn't maybe require in-house Canva training. Let us know if any of these are not going to be happening, so because we can maybe help you with that. So a couple of reasons why you might want to work with us is that we're a team that's been going since October 2003, so we're small and agile, so we've got a lot of experience across lots of different sectors, a lot of experience within the charity sector as well. And here are some indicators of case studies that we've worked with clients, and I'll share those with you in a second video. Nice testimonial from somebody. And just to say that this is our typical brand process that we go through when we're actually going from the very beginning with brand concepts. And I just thought I would add that in here in case that might be of interest. Okay, thank you very much for listening, and I'll pass you on to vid 2.